Xin chào. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so glad to be in Hanoi this morning, and I want to thank Nguyen Minh Hao, the chairman of Vinasa, for inviting me to share the stage with him and many other leaders of the other associations. I'm so happy to be here this morning, and such a timely because there's so much changes that are going on in the area of technology and business. So with the kind permission, allow me to share some of the highlights where things are taking place in the region and in Vietnam too. So I started by saying that the Digital Asia, new technology trends and their impacts in Vietnam and the region. Sorry, some technology problem, but it's okay. The rise of transformative technologies in Asia. Let us look at just a few. I'm going to highlight about 7. What is creating the impact in Asia, which is very, very important for all of us to take place. First is artificial intelligence. Now, this is a very big subject, so therefore I cannot spend a lot of time, but I will tell you a little bit about what's happening. There are 3 very important areas in AI that's happening at the moment in Asia Pac. Number 1, AI has been used throughout in 3 areas. Number 1, it's used in soft AI, hard AI, and deep AI. There are 3 parts. I won't go into the detail because time doesn't permit me. Okay? But the other part that is very important is the policies around AI, which I'm so happy to announce that ASOCIO, together with all the member economists, including Vinasa, is working on some policy papers around AI because AI has also 2 problems. 1, when you generate AI codes, there is the intellectual property issue with AI. So because of that, we are trying to see how we can bring the awareness into the region. Because if you want to do business, then you must understand the policies, the issues surrounding AI. 2, cybersecurity. This is a big deal because as we develop in technology, cybersecurity also takes a different shape because people in the world are now looking at how can I go. So give an example. I'm making a story here, okay? So if I went to the bank, there was a story about this guy went to the bank and he put the gun and he says, give me all the money. And the cashier said, sir, next time please do it online. I hope you got the joke, but if you didn't, it's okay. During the tea break, I'll explain to you what it means. So cybersecurity is another technology that's pushing change in Asia Pac. Cloud computing, edge infrastructure. Although we have cloud computing, but I think we are all looking for the edge computing power in the cloud and in areas that we are connected with the devices in order for us to have that computing power to do our businesses. Next will be the 5G. I'm using 5G, but some of the countries are already in 6G, and we are really talking about 7G right now. So this is another big deal because in all businesses, speed is the power. So I see this trend as a big game changer in the region. Blockchain and transactions, yes, because a lot of work is now done online, and a lot of exchange of documents are done online. A lot of trust is done online. So there has to be some degree of trusted transactions in that cyberspace. Green and smart technology and sustainability, although this is very new, but it's going to be a very, very important role in leading technologies, in pushing forward the agenda, because the world is looking at green at the moment very, very heavily. In fact, in some countries, it's a policy that you have to put in your annual report that you are compliant to the green technology initiatives. So it is coming. Last one, I put this as not important, but it's one of the key, because I always say that people is about business and business is about people. So therefore, the tech talent development and the reskilling, or I should say, tech talent capital development, is going to make a lot of change. If we just go out there and you see people that are really involved, that are creating differences in the tech environment. So the people are the very, very important people in the component that's going to push the agenda. You can have a technology, but if you do not have the drive, the people behind, i.e. in every area, then you're going to have a problem in the business world. Next. So I call that the unified vision for the digital future. When you put everything together, then you are looking at a track and a roadmap that you cannot see the future that's coming around the corner. Shared purpose, empowered by innovation, and united through digital trust. That is also the vision and the promise that ASOCIO is going to bring to its member economies. I also want to touch on other areas, which is how can and what are the areas that can actually drive impact through these key pillars. And there are a few. There are 6. Number 1, if you combine that unified vision, you can actually create value and monetize that. Meaning, you leverage technology with business, with people, and you create that difference between a corporation that is large compared to a corporation that is an SME or even a startup. Today, if you look at the startup world, because of the technology drive and the push, it has made a lot of impact. And in fact, some of the startup solutions that are created by these companies has in fact overtaken compared to some of the big organizations. Because if you look at legacy, because most big organizations are now damned with legacy systems, damned with legacy processes, damned with legacy people thinking. So if you don't change that and make the shift, you will be left behind. So creating value and monetizing is an important element of one of the pillars. Second, enhance awareness and readiness. I speak to a number of people around the region, and we always talk about technology. A number of years ago, there was a big hype about big data. But if you ask the business folks, what is big data? How do you apply in your business? How do you use it in a business? How is it driven through the organization structure? You find that many people will not be able to respond to that. That's always a lack of awareness. So part of the strategy in the region, working with the association, is to drive the awareness agenda and make sure that the companies are ready and economies are ready to adapt technology. Starting collaboration is the next one, which is very good. I'm so happy that Vinasa is one of the leading associations that we work with, and we know that they always push this agenda. Collaboration, coming together, beyond borders, breaking the business barriers. And all that is happening, and one of the agenda for us to look at that will be to create a collaboration. Of course, if you want to create collaboration between countries, then the problem will be, how do we handle the policy issues? How do we handle cross-border trade? How do we then bring out, for example, the data protections, like the Personal Protection Data Act? So all those things has to come in play. And I think this is very, very important for us to look at this pillar too. Next, growing talent and exchange. Some economies now in the region are actually, has become body shops, meaning you provide talent to the other countries, the other economies. You provide know-hows, you provide solutions that are developed and created. So this is one of the lack that we see in the region. The lack of talent, reskilling is becoming and should be one of the agendas of your work that you want to map up. Bridging communities and members, I think very, very important. I was just speaking to somebody this morning from another association, and the first thing we struck in the conversation was, what can we do within your country and my country? What can we do? How can we collaborate? How can you bring that? How can you bridge that? So those are very, very important discussions, and those are very important data points and touch points. So this is why I put this down as one of the key pillars. Last but not least, I think increasing opportunities and value has to be the purpose. Has to be the purpose driven for all of us if we want to move forward in this economy of digitalization. Now talk a little bit about AI. Before I touch on this slide, I'm sure you'll be wondering why I did say soft AI, hard AI and deep AI. Soft AI is what we use in our mobile phones. Sometimes we use in a home where our appliances like fridge, television, fans, air conditioners, senses and automatically does the work. That's soft AI. Hard AI is when we look at smart cities, we look at intelligent buildings, we look at security. That is hard AI if we develop solutions to do that. But if you look at deep AI is manufacturing. We use robotics, we use real automation, and very, very deep sensing of ensuring that AI works in that space. So these are the three layers of AI. Of course, that is just to give you an idea. But I'm not talking about Gen AI here, okay? That's another discussion. But having said that, AI tangible impacts from creation to practice are in these areas. Number one, AI is able to measure real results at a very fast speed and giving you the greater impact. It also brings about cost efficiency and management. It also helps the manpower and workforce evolution. Example, if you're doing 10 things today to reach the result, perhaps with the AI impact, you can do it in 2 steps rather than 10 steps. So it creates a productivity. But I'm not talking about AI replacing jobs. I'm not talking about AI replacing people. This will happen because, unfortunately, in the space of work and environment, you will find that usually if you take 10 people to do the same work, maybe with AI you just need 2%. So what do you do with the rest of the people? So we're looking at those issues within the workforce as well, within the ASOCIO camp to understand and maybe to bring some recommendations to organizations what can be done in this area so that those people could be reskilled and could be redeployed in another areas as well. Productivity management and gains, I did talk about how AI will help organizations to speed up things. Give you one example here. In one of the airports in the world, I won't mention the name of the airport, when you enter, as you pass the immigration, and just before you get to the immigration, as you're going towards there are cameras around that in 1 second, it takes 32,000 snapshots of the people's faces compared in the database. The idea is whether you are in the Interpol list, you are a terrorist, you are wanted in another country, and because of the shared information, it is able to pick that up like that. Now, you compare that against somebody doing that work manually, trying to figure out who is actually on the Interpol list. So that's not possible. So with the AI, it is actually helping in creating the productivity management gains in many organizations. That was just an example, right? Cross-border, cross-sector business innovation. I think this will be one area that we will focus, and I'm sure Vinasa of Vietnam will focus as well, how we can use talents across to bring cross-border talent exchange in this area of AI. Now, if you look at anything in life, in any organization, there's always this end-to-end visibility. You must have end-to-end visibility. You cannot say that I'm just looking at one part of the organization, but you need to look at the entire organization. So when you have the visibility, you can make an informed decision based on the data, based on what has been produced and given to you by the AI or the engine that's working behind. I do not believe that if you are working in a company that is, don't disturb me because this is my work, or don't disturb that because my work, that company will find its time when it's going to have lots of issues and problems. So end-to-end visibility in a business is very key. For a CEO, for a business owner, for even people that are responsible to run the business. So therefore, AI would give you that edge, allowing to see what's happening from one end of the business to the other end of the business. What more if your business is spread across a different region of the, what more if the business is spread across different countries, different economies? AI capability is very key in that success. So I'm just giving you a bit of background, a little bit about AI to let you know, because that's the talk of the town at the moment. Let me move forward. We are named an associate member of the economy strategic role in the region. So how will that impact Vietnam? Before I do that, I want you to think about these numbers. These numbers that I'm going to present are actually numbers taken from Gartner, from IDC. some of our social numbers, and some of reliable sources in Europe that you've taken. Let me move on. Look at these numbers. Your 24 economy numbers. ASOCIO member economy GDP share, it's 45% of the global GDP. That's a big number. That means we are a powerhouse in Asia, right? 2, ASOCIO represents over 20,000 ICT companies. So if you are a member, just imagine how cross-border trade will help when we bring all these people together in various aspects of the business. 3, the Asia-Pac ICT region association for member companies is projected to spend in ICT 1.4 trillion, which is about 5.8% through 2028 from now. So you can see the number is huge. You know, let me just share one thought with you. There was a saying when I was a CIO many years ago, I used to hear this very often. People tell me that IT or ICT is the enabler of business. Have you heard this before? Have you heard this before? How many of you heard? Can you raise your hands? Only a few. The others have not heard. But today you heard it, right? They said ICT is the enabler of business. Today, that is a wrong concept. That's a wrong concept. Today, ICT is the business. It's no longer the enabler. Think along those lines. ICT today is the business. So that's why the 1.4 trillion that you see here. You look at another number on the global ESG assets, USD 18.4 trillion in 2021 with a 12.9% growth rate until 2026. Now, you can imagine that the ASOCIO member economies are expecting a notable increase in ESG-focused investment. In fact, we have within ASOCIO a division or a chapter set to look at ESG. It's becoming a big deal. Once again, it has to do with policies. If you look at the ASOCIO member economies, collectively account approximately 1 trillion in the global ICT revenue. That's a lot of money to make. But good money to make. This includes services, hardware, software, and digital infrastructure. So some of the technologies that are driving business in, obviously you will know, right? This is where the numbers are coming from. So between 1991 and 2001, employment of IT-related services in Asia Pacific grew at an annual rate of 7.2%. And this number that you see here is an old number because we haven't got the new number yet. So if I look at 2024, I would probably add another probably 10% to that. The growth, it is changing. So this is why I mentioned earlier, talent capital. That was the very reason why I mentioned this point. Last 1 year, the 97 million new jobs globally are projected to be created by AI in 2025. I thought AI was replacing people, but how come it's creating jobs? See, there's a different phenomenon, right? So you have to think it differently. So, 95 million new jobs globally and projected to be created by AI in 2025. And according to the World Economic Forum, ASOCIO member economies account for 25 to 30 million in those new roles. So a lot of talent are going to be coming from the Asia-Pac region. And definitely Vietnam is included in these numbers. So I think one of the things, if I can sum up a little bit, the slides are very slow. I think somebody is stepping on the table. The data are not going through. Can you not step on the table, please? That was a joke. See, Vietnam is not trailing the digital revolution, in my view and in the view of my colleagues in ASOCIO, but instead Vietnam is partnering to lead it. Because Vietnam is a very, very important component in the ASOCIO and in the region. So you are leading it together with us. And what are your strategies? Number one, building national digital infrastructure that is interoperable and secure. That's one of the strengths that we see in Vietnam. Two, you attract sustainable investment with AI, R&D, cloud, green energy talent. But I also must add one thing that I didn't put here, is the policies that Vietnam is looking at. Because you are focusing very heavily on politics as well, which is a big deal. Because today in Malaysia, just for policy, the government has announced that they passed a law That means every organization must have one person called DPO, Data Protection Officer. It's now in the law. The idea is that they will comply with the Personal Protection Data Act. So because it is there, but no one is aware. So they need that to be in place. So policy is very, very important to any organization. The other one is enhanced cross-border collaboration to accelerate mutual growth and value add. I always find this in Vietnam. Vietnam, through DINASA's efforts, has always been the forefront in cross-border trade and always bringing that into the foray. Before I do that, I'd like you all to clap for DINASA because they did a great job here. Please can you give DINASA a big round of applause. Incidentally, there is also ASOCIO Unified Vision, empowering the region. And you notice that something which may not seem right at the top there. Can you see the ASOCIO logo and what it says at the bottom? I'll come to that. In conclusion, we must together look at Asia's digital destiny. In other words, let this summit, this is a great summit, be remembered as a place where we came together, not only to discuss the future, but to define it. So let's master the technology, let's drive breakthroughs, let's rise together in this concept and in this way. With a note, allow me to say, come on, and thank you very much. I did say earlier about our new tagline. It says, mapping the ASOCIO digital economy. This will be launched tomorrow at our ASOCIO meeting and the plenary, but I'm so happy to share this with you today. This will be our step forward foot to bring communities together, to bring business together, and to value add to one another, so that all can be in the same boat, facing the same direction, and going after the same dollar. Thank you very much.